All right, everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of the ReEducation Cam podcast. My name is Colin Miller, being joined alongside, as always, by the lovely, the talented, the incomparable Ms. Karen O'Toole. And Karen, here we are yet again, a lot going on in the world. Now, last week was our first post, our first official upload to X. Please follow us on X, subscribe to us on YouTube, Rumble. But for all of our new viewers, you may have realized by now, or you will realize that we are not really a serious news podcast per se. I mean, we were literally talking about Conor McGregor launching illegal migrants into the Irish Sea from a catapult on last week's episode. So this isn't actually, supposed to be a very serious podcast. We try and keep things a little bit lighthearted while we comment on the collapse of Western civilization. However, I feel like there's a lot of things that we really do need to comment on it. Number one, we were just talking, to piggyback off of last week's episode, the Irish are out again protesting in the streets against the forced mass migration going on. So we've got that to talk about, and I think that we should also touch upon the horrific shooting in Moscow, because I think that that event is going to have huge implications for the rest of the year globally. God knows what else is going to happen. But before we even get into anything, you usually have some a little anecdote or some words of wisdom to start the show off with. So I'm gonna pass it off to you, and then we'll get into all that.
Well, I appreciate the disclaimer that you gave so that like nothing can be implicated against us for anything that we say or anything that we promote here on the show. This is all just fun and lighthearted. And but Colin, I do believe that you and I both are people that we have our own beliefs, we have our own perspective on the world, and it happens to be similar in some ways, a little we diverge in others. But I think that you and I are both, and I believe there's a lot of us out there, and I imagine that people listening out there, you might feel very strongly about your beliefs, but I feel like you do not get upset that other people have differing beliefs. Like I don't take it personally. And I think that you are also somebody that shares this thought process or just this approach that I feel like we could have anybody on the show or discuss anything, and neither of us would really be like offended or upset about it. It doesn't make me feel challenged that other people have differing points of view. I do feel like that is in this day and age, I think it's very, very difficult, at least the polarized left and the polarized right. It's almost as if you are in one of those camps, just the existence of other ideologies is like a threat to your existence. Do you get what I'm trying to put across here?
Oh yeah, and I feel that that is one of the reasons why you and I gel as a cohesive podcasting unit is because, like you said, our views are very similar. Yet we do. I take a left turn there, you take a right turn there, and we hear each other out, and we understand each other's views, or at least try to understand each other's views. Something that a lot of people aren't even like attempting to understand opposing views. And I feel like you can only reach that point when you admit to yourself just how much you're wrong about things. That's one of the
Yeah.
steps that I've been trying to take as a human grown adult, is that there has been a lot of shit that I'm wrong about, and there's a lot of shit I will be wrong about in the future too. So you have to first off admit that to yourself, that there's things you're going to be wrong about. You don't know everything. And it's sad because all too often in our society and in this day and age, you run into people who they just have all the answers. And
Yeah.
let,
Yeah.
let, let, let me put it to you this way. us as human beings, we can only see like a very, very thin part of the electromagnetic light spectrum. That's why
Mhm.
when you see, you know how cats, sometimes you look at a cat and they'll be staring at something very intently, and you'll be like, what are you looking at? There's nothing. It's because they can see, their eyes can see things that we can't. So for anyone to say, you know, we're basically blind as human beings, is what I'm trying to say. So for any one person out there to say, "Oh, I know everything and this is how it is," it's like, how could I even take you seriously until you admit that there are things that you might not know, there are things that you may need education on. So that's a big part of the process in not wanting to kill your neighbor
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
admitting that maybe there's something that they can teach you. Maybe there's something you don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. And a lot of it, I believe that this kind of relates to what we were talking a little bit last week when we were talking about the Candace Owens, not even the controversy that happened that she just exited the Daily Wire, but before that, and I have to say, I just want to put this out there. I do not necessarily think, I don't know if she was fired or ousted from the Daily Wire. I'm not sure if it was just like an exit or a consensual exit. I'm not really sure.
I think it was consensual. That's the
Yeah.
vibe I get, that it
Yeah.
was a sort of a we, we just can't coexist
Yeah.
based off of, unfortunately, based off of one issue. But Candace, she's gonna be fine. I think
He's gonna
that
be, yeah,
the Daily Wire needed Candace one hell of a lot more than Candace needed the Daily Wire. That's the thing about today's day and age. You don't have to be associated with any outlet or any company. You can that's the beauty of it. You can just pretty much do your own thing, and she's gonna be fine. But yeah, like you were saying, I think it was mutually agreed upon. But what
yes,
do I know?
yeah. Which I understand. I don't believe that she needed to. I believe that she is welcome to her opinions, welcome to express those opinions. They do not upset or offend me. Um, but it really wasn't. It isn't necessarily this Israel Hamas issue that last week we kind of spoke about. We actually were speaking about the First Lady of France, and that Candace, the couple weeks ago, she was willing to stake her reputation that the First Lady of France was in fact a man and had lived as a man up until she was 30 years old. And Candace went on the record saying there were no, she was like, if she wanted to, I looked this up. She said her words, Candace Owens' words were that she did not, there were no, she had not released photos of herself before she was 30. That's wrong because the most important publication of our time, as I say every week, the Daily Mail in 2020 ran an article showing the First Lady of France's wedding photo. And I'm not saying, is the First Lady of France a man?
Well, that was post
I don't know.
transition, Karen.
That was supposed, but no, Candace had her quote, and I quote, she said she had not released photos of herself before she was 30 and she had lived as
Okay.
a man. That's what Candace was saying. She wasn't saying that just that she was born a man. She was saying that she lived as a man until she was 30 and she didn't do her due diligence to check in with, yet again, the
With
most
the Daily
important
Mail.
publication of the Daily Mail. And what I'm saying is it goes back to our conversation about like when we were talking about being offended or people having opposing views. I don't I think Candace Owens is going to be fine. I think that she is very much welcome. I think that she has an important voice. I think she has raised really important issues. But I believe there are a lot of people out there. And unfortunately, I think Candace is one of these people that is really more concerned about being right and being and getting garnering attention than she is about conversation, the truth, and learning.
Hmm.
And understanding other people. Whereas, and I think that's really the difference. There are so many people in this space today, so many people with platforms and voices and microphones that they're really all they're concerned about is being right, confirming their bias, and getting attention and making themselves wealthy. And I feel like people like us, we I'm just interested in the truth. I would just like to know, I would like to get to the bottom of things. I like to like I was at the grocery store and I was in the customer service like checkout and I was listening to some of the younger people that work there. Like some of them were probably like 10 years younger than me. I was listening to them talk about the election. And the one guy was saying, I don't want to, it doesn't even worth it to vote. And the one girl was like, Joe Biden is the most progressive president of all time. And the one guy said, oh, no, that's not true. Joe Biden's this. So I'm listening to them and I kind of looked over and I smiled at them and they kind of saw me and like smiled back. And I, I really was just appreciating listening to them. Like I really enjoyed, I didn't want them to think I wanted to jump in their conversation to assert my own beliefs. I was just really fascinated because I'm 33 years old and I wanted to hear what a 23-year-old had to say, what a 25-year-old say, because I just like to know. I want to understand how they feel about the world. You're
I don't want to
smiling
hear
because
what a
you're like, I know,
23-year-old has to say. I'm sorry. They have
I get it. I
the
get it.
dumbest group.
I understand. I get that, but like it's just really to
I'm
me,
joking.
it's like I want to understand where you're coming from. I want to hear your side of the story. I want to hear what it matters to you. And I enjoy listening to one of my favorite YouTube channels to listen to. Like one of my favorite like brand of YouTube is the bread to like the socialist YouTube, which I'm mostly oppose everything they say, but I really just appreciate hearing their opinions. Like I just like I no, I don't like confirming my bias. I like challenging my bias. Like I like to hear things that don't align with my view. And I don't know if everybody feels that way, but I tend to like it. I like to hear what somebody completely different thinks about an issue. For instance, very important issue, even though we are anti-royalist, anti-colonialist, we are pro-royalist here.
Well, I know that this is an issue that's very near and dear to
Near
your
and dear.
heart because you're
So
obsessed with the royal
I
family.
am obsessed. Even though I live in the United States and I have no way, um, I am so upset. Okay, so here, let me backtrack. When I was growing up, my mom would tell me that Prince William was probably the Antichrist. Okay, so I had a and I have to say, my mom is going to listen to this, and this is going to make her proud because she's very upset with some of the things I've said on the show. Like last episode, I said that she wanted me to get my DNA tested with the ancestry, and she was mad because she was like, "How dare you act like I want you to do that?" She said, "I only want you to do that because you already donated it to the hospital. Like one of the hospitals I go to, I donated I not donated, but I let them take a sample." And she's like, "Well, you already did it. They already have it. So you might
Does the
as well."
CCP run the hospital? Probably.
Probably at this point. But so my mom raised me thinking Prince William is the Antichrist. So I had like a lot of interest, not interest, but like if you're hearing this since the time you're 12, you're going you're gonna pay a little bit of attention. You're gonna be like invested, like I need to know what's going on. Like, how people watch stocks and watch companies. Like, I'm watching Prince William to see, like, okay, did he make a deal with the devil yet? Like, is that my retirement? Do we get out of here? When does the Armageddon be? Like, when does the rapture happen? Nonetheless, so of course I'm a little invested in the royals. And I just want to say their hearts go out to Princess Catherine and Prince William. He is not the Antichrist to date that we know of. I really do feel bad for him. And but I have been really, really involved in the whole Meghan Markle like drama for years. And I am very close to, I have been around narcissists a lot. And to me, I see Megan as somebody who has narcissistic tendencies, if not is a full on true narcissist. And I really just enjoy like the chess match of like Megan trying to make her moves. And so I was reading the other day, like some of the pro Megan people, like what they have to say, because they're, so it's interesting to see what they think. Cause I just look at it and I say, okay, she's a narcissist. She's always trying to manipulate. She's always trying to do this. Whereas you have other people I was reading and they think which I do think the royal family is probably evil, but
Oh, yeah, I mean, King
yes,
Charles,
yeah,
at the
yeah,
very
they're like
least, is aiding
reptilians.
and abetting the Antichrist, at the
Yes,
very least.
yes. I also think too, like if you think about it, like maybe like Prince William, he was just kind of born into this. Like it's not his fault that like you could have been born into the royal family.
If only,
If
if only
you're like,
I'd be
I thought I
sleeping in
was.
a lot more.
Well, and that's well, you were part of the royal family of the coal region, or at least that's what
I
you thought when
was.
you were growing up,
We
that
had
you
we
were,
had a Lincoln, Karen. Remember,
you
we
know,
had a Lincoln. We had a home box office subscription. We had a pool table growing
wait,
up. I would shoot pool.
wait, is that what HBO means?
Isn't that what it means? I
Oh,
hope that's what it means because I'll feel really embarrassed if it
I think
doesn't.
I don't know what it means at all. I never thought about it until you just said it.
Do we have to look this up right
We have
now?
to
I
look
think
it
we
up.
do because if we
I
don't,
just, I think I just want to come out and say, I don't have
home
very
box
strong
office.
opinions. It is
Yeah,
okay, awesome. I hate their name change. I think that was one of the most abysmal name changes in the history
it
of
was one of the worst things
commerce
to happen in this decade so
in my
far
lifetime.
because home like HBO, the name is so iconic. When you think of HBO, you think of Sopranos, you think of True
Yeah,
Blood, you think of what are some other iconic HBO shows? Game of Thrones. It's
girls.
gr-
Was,
you know what? The first season, it wasn't that
was
bad
that
actually,
HBO? I don't
but
know.
anyway, I digress. It was such an
And just so
iconic
everybody knows,
name.
that's the Lena Dunham show. That's what.
Yeah, yeah, that was the Lena Dunham show that encouraged young college age women to have as high of a body count as possible. There's probably I imagine I haven't seen any episodes, but I imagine that Euphoria show
Oh,
is even
Euphoria,
more
yeah. Oh,
degenerate than Girls was.
so we did like we've mentioned this on the show before that we're watching The Sopranos. My mom laughed. She goes, "Oh, I guess The Sopranos nowadays probably looks like child's play." And I'm like, Pretty much." Like, I never watched Euphoria, but I'm pretty sure I read an article that said the first episode, the series premiere of Euphoria, had 78 images of male genitalia within the one episode. Like,
That's
like
more male
what
genitalia than that I want to see in a lifetime.
Yeah, well, just so Sopranos is, I guess yeah, it's still not. It's probably a little bit more than I like to see, but it's not anywhere near that. And you don't see any male genitalia watching
Thank God.
Sopranos. Yeah, so you don't see anyone's on the Sopranos. That I'm on season 3, I believe. So but like you said, it's comparing that 90s to early 2000 show to 2024. It's a good analysis of like how immoral and depraved I believe our country has become, and really desensitized to all the depravity too. I
Oh,
really, yeah. I mean, even for
and
myself, yeah.
even more concerning than all of that is how desensitized we're becoming to violence. Because I think I mentioned this to you
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
Opening up social media, like going on Instagram or X, I don't know about your algorithm. My algorithm is basically like a giant snuff film. I swear. I've seen more people getting like brutally beaten and murdered on X and Instagram than I care to, and it's getting to the point where it's getting very concerning. Where it's like I'm looking at it and it's like, oh yeah, that's terrible. It's like it's not even as shocking
Yeah,
anymore
yeah.
because we're seeing it so much. I mean, you saw those video. We're not going to change subjects quite yet, but those videos from the Moscow shooting, like you're watching people get blown away like from a distance on an iPhone.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
getting blown away at point blank range with like automatic weapons on social media. You're just scrolling. It's like this can't be good for
It's
society.
Pandora's box. It's Pandora's box. And really like I remember so I work in the media, so I actually see a lot of this. Like I work like working in web and in news. a lot of my job since like 2017 has been like, oh, got to make sure that video's up, got to make sure we have the video, make sure we have to post this photo. And it's always pushing the envelope. I personally think so much of it is just it appeals. If it, this is not my website. Okay. So I am instructed to promote, not just, I don't want to say promote, but republish a lot of this. We obviously aren't like the originators of it, but all of it is, you know, aggregation at this point all throughout the web. Like 10% of the media puts out the original content and the 90% of it is just aggregation. But I really feel like police, I guess it's kind of hard because it's almost like citizen reporters, like what you saw in Russia. Whereas I've seen police officer videos, um, and all of the media jumps to make sure that they also are putting out these images. I That transgender shooting in Nashville at the Christian school, that
Yeah.
footage
Oh
was
yeah.
so shocking. And they had put the police put out the footage, which I believe the public has a right to see. But the fact that like all of these news organizations, you really need they need to put their foot down and say, no, 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 we're not going to publish this. Like, if you want to see it, here's the link to the original. But it's all about clicks. It's all about the numbers. It's all about the algorithm. And let's be real, we as a people are interested. We want to see it. We want to
Sure.
it's gore pornography. You know, everything in this country is pornography at this point. It's
Oh,
Meghan Markle pornography. It's not literally, but you understand what I'm saying. It's food pornography. It's consumerism pornography.
yeah, like hashtag food porn. Like
Yeah, it's aesthetic pornography.
food and
It's
porn
yeah.
shouldn't go in the same sentence, by the
No,
way.
yes.
I'm just
Unless you're
saying.
into that.
I think there was a
But like
movie 9.5 weeks where like there was like strawberries and stuff in. Anyway, go ahead.
but yeah, like but everything is just become it just appeals to our base. It appeals to our pleasure. And I think we were talking about this. I went on a side rant last week about how our society is just everybody is just following their pleasure. They're just looking to please themselves, and that is their motivation, which I do think that if you really break it down, if you take our biological like nature as like homo sapiens, like that's basically why we survive, like that's why but but we are not animals. You understand what I'm saying? Like we are not animals. We are made in the image and likeness of God, and God has put us here for a purpose. But I feel like because we are not connected to our faith, because we are not connected to God, to our creator, a lot of us have lost our sense of purpose. And I will say for myself, I was thinking about that. I was explaining this to my poor husband who has to listen to me go on about these things. And I thought to myself, I'm like, how much do I live to just please myself? Like, think about that. I know you
We
Colin's like,
are both about the comfort. We've
we
had this
do, we are,
conversation
yes,
before.
yes. I am
We're
a petty
comfort
little
monsters.
pig who I will give credit to Timmy Dillon for coming up with that, but I'm a petty little pig. I seek the creature comforts. I enjoy my comfort. But really, like, how much of my life is just so motivated to seek my pleasure and my comfort and not break out of my comfort and not to live and walk in my purpose that God has put me here for? I think that, like when you really look at it that way and you look at your life like that, and like I said, like, really take some time to think about that, how much you're just worried about your own pleasure, how much you're just worried about consuming and rather
Yeah.
than creation. And it's striking. And I really believe this. Like I always like to challenge people, but I'm challenging myself. I'm pointing one finger at the society, but I'm pointing three fingers back
Right.
because like you said, I'm a petty little pig. I love my
You
luxury. I
said that. I
love,
didn't say that.
you know,
I would never insult a lovely woman and call
well,
them a pig.
I did see this week that did the first successful kidney transplant of a gene edited pig into a human being. And I told my family I might get to live as a real pig one day. So I
Yeah,
might
part pit, part swine.
part
Could you
pig for
imagine?
so
I like pigs, by the way. I
I love
think that
pigs. Love them.
they're lovely, cute,
Majestic.
good nature. Yeah, you can use the word majestic. Yeah, I'd like to grab a hold of one and give him a big hug. I'm a fan of the pig. I'm not anti-pig.
Listen, there's a reason why George Orwell made the pigs the rulers in Animal Farm, okay?
Yep,
All
at the
right.
end.
I'm not a freaking horse that goes to the glue factory, okay? I am a pig. We rule.
By the way, didn't the FDA recently have to apologize for that ivermectin post that they made? Remember they made that post saying, "Come on, people, you're not a pig, you're not a horse," because they were trying to equate
Oh, yeah,
ivermectin
yeah.
with the
With
horse
animal,
version.
yeah,
I
like
think
a
they had to
veterinarian.
delete those tweets now, actually. I
Did
think
they?
they were, yeah.
Because everything's so politicized. Like we talked about that last week when I was like, oh, I didn't want to wear a mask on a plane because it's like if I wear a mask, then I love Joe Biden. I work
Just
in the
paint MAGA
administration.
across the
You just put
mask.
MAGA.
Hashtag MAGA.
That would be so good. It's very like confusing to people, I'm sure. Like, cause first you see the mask and you like want to get angry and be like, you idiot, take that mask off. They're not any good. And then you see just those letters and you're like, okay, I
That was
stand with
my
you.
internal dialogue when you mentioned the mask last week. That was the first
Yeah.
thing I thought of. I'm like, oh, Colin, Karen, it's Karen.
Karen.
She has legitimate
Yeah.
concerns here.
Yeah.
Like, don't,
She's gone off the rails. Yeah.
yeah, don't be so judgmental.
But I have to say, so we talked about Canada. So yeah, let's get into this whole Russia situation because I know you've studied a little bit more. It all happened Friday afternoon, and I am a weekend. I go hard on the weekends, and by hard, I mean I check out. As actually, I had a family party in Philadelphia, so I was driving and hanging with my grandmother, stuff like that this weekend. I was a very basic bitch this weekend. That's what I like to I like to be like, I always say this to Colin, like if you know me personally, I'm like Alex Jones. But if you see me online, you think that I'm like Joanna Gaines. Like the government knows I thought that if I made myself look normal, the government would give me a pass. But
They can see
being
your text
they can
messages
see
though.
exactly. They know who I work for. They know what I do.
They know who
They
you
know everything I
associate
say.
with. They know you
They know
associate with me. They're probably reading some of my. Actually, I imagine when they look at my text messages, they're probably like, this is just like a mentally ill. Like he's not really a threat. He's just
Yeah. Well, I mean, like maybe they'll give me a pass because I'm always looking up like the Meghan Markle thing and like stupid stuff like that, like
pretty
Dave
basic.
Ramsey stuff, you know what I mean? They'll be like this moron.
Yeah.
She can't figure this out, you know what I mean? Like she's just going to be on Reddit drinking her coffee. But
Yeah.
which okay, before we get into Russia, we have to have an important topic because I know you and I were on a self-improvement journey for this year.
I'm still
What
on
is
that journey, by the way.
okay?
I was proud of
How are you
myself
doing?
today.
How are you doing? How are you doing?
Well, first off, I'm feeling a renewed sense of clarity in terms of mentally speaking. I'm trying not to really drink or indulge in substances that may have a negative effect on the brain. I'm trying to get more exercise. I went for a nice walk today.
Awesome.
Lifted some weights. And in terms of my exercise, I'm taking more of an Elon Musk approach to my exercise. And
I can't wait to hear this.
what I mean by that is he posted a video recently. Well, by recently, I probably mean like months ago. This was probably when the whole Musk versus
Mark
Zuckerberg
Zuckerberg.
fight was
Yeah.
still being talked about. And he posted a video where he basically said, "I'm so busy, I don't have time to work out, so I will just do it here and there. Like I'll go pick up a weight and do a couple reps, and then." Go back to what I was doing. That's kind of how I'm approaching my workouts in terms of strength training. And it's really a mental trick because if I have it in my mind like, oh my God, I have to do I have to do this workout and I've got
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
this many sets and this many reps. It's like no, 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 no. I'm just gonna like, okay, I'm in the mood to pick up some free weights now. I'm going to sit down, do some curls, do some hammer curls, some chest press, incline chest press, and like, okay, that I did. I'm going for more of like low weight and more reps because I think that
Yeah.
has the
Yeah.
same effect actually as as if you're lifting heavy weights.
Yeah. Well,
So in
yeah.
a nutshell, I'm
Yeah.
trying not to make it a scheduled thing that I have to do. It's
Yeah.
just like, I'm in the mood to lift some weights. I'm going to go and do that. Then I'm going to lift some weights. And okay, I'm going to go back to what I was doing. And then maybe after we're done this podcast, I will, have a little something to eat. And then I'll be like, you know what? I'm in the mood to do some more curls.
Some
So
reps. Yeah.
that I will actually see more results from doing that than I will from, oh God, I got to do this workout tomorrow. I
Yeah.
got to plan it. I got to carve out
It's a
time
whole
for it. I
psych.
can't do it.
It's all in the mind. And I like that Elon Musk has the same workout and you have now adopted this. This is the same workout as my mom. So she she also does. She said that her father who lived till he was like 87, she was like he would just go on a little walk and then he would go on another little walk and he would just do his little curls at his chair. And
Yeah.
she was like, so she does like her squats and stuff like that. And she has some weights. And she just, like you
Yeah.
said, I'll be on the phone with her and she's just like, okay, I'm lifting. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But I do think you're right. I think it's like, and they do say that getting movement like throughout your day is better than like movement one part of the day. I have to ask you, what do you think of your walks? What has been your impression of walking?
My impression of walking. I
Yes,
mean, I
yes.
well, one of the thoughts I had today was I'm thankful that I have a relatively safe neighborhood where I
Yeah.
can, feel safe walking around. And it's pleasant. I'm here in northern central Florida.
Sunny
The weather's
Florida.
nice. The weather's been getting nicer here. Um, what's the question, Karen?
Well, what's it? Yeah, so you started to incorporate walking into your life and like do you think you see benefits of it? Like do you think that you have any
Oh,
like
listen,
yes.
that's the
I
only.
should just tell you I'm like such a huge proponent of walking. Like that's why I'm asking you. Sorry, there's a motivation behind this because I just wanted to hear your thoughts on walking before I shared mine, but
I'll say this. I know that this works for me because the only time in my life when I ever lost a substantial amount of weight and looked pretty lean was
Yep.
when I was in college and I had a walk that I had to do
Yep.
to get to classes every morning from where I was staying at. So in total, I was probably walking, oh, I don't know, at least 45 minutes a day. I was walking, two classes back to where I was staying at, 45 minutes to an hour. I was walking a day. And I'll never forget, my parents hadn't seen me for a while and they came to visit and they were like, "Oh my God, you look so good. Look how thin you look." So I know for a fact that that's the only thing that really does help me to lean out and shed some pounds. And listen, I'm a long way currently from where I want to be, but I know if I keep this up every day, I will get to where I want to be. Maybe not as fast as I did when I was in college. I was also a lot younger then, but I know that this works. It's a very basic form of exercise that
Yeah. Yeah.
anybody pretty much can do.
Well, I
So,
don't like your ableism. Not everybody can,
well,
Colin. Come on.
and I was
No, I'm
almost going to
kidding.
add that, like, okay,
Almost.
Governor
You said
Greg Abbott can't
almost.
go for a daily walk. Okay, I understand.
Yes.
I
Well, I
understand
was
that.
I was just thinking of my 600-pound life because the new season's back. So that's when you said it. It's like not everybody can walk, but um no, I just asked because I think that anybody listening, like if you are struggling with weight, if you're struggling with mental health, if you're struggling with a difficult time in your life, literally take 20 minutes to walk outside, not inside. Like if you weather permitting, I actually try to walk all year round, even in Pennsylvania winters. I'll go out in the snow, I'll put my galoshes on and I have like hand warmers I hold, like rechargeable hand warmers. But no, I don't want to go on and on about walking, but I will say that just try it. Just try to incorporate a 10-15 minute walk daily. And I don't know. I think I always tell people it's one of the best medicines that you have, you know?
We should do a podcast for the Reader's Digest.
We should.
I feel like this is like something that they would,
I know, right? They're going to
historically
be like, is
promote.
this the AARP?
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what? Here's the difference. Other people listen to freaking Lex Friedman and they listen to Joe Rogan and they listen to all these other podcasters, the Huberman Lab. And these people make you think you literally have to not Joe Rogan. I think Joe Rogan's a really mild mannered guy. Um, we love you, Joe, the god of the podcast universe. I'm bowing. But what I'm saying is, like, you listen to all this stuff, and people get like analysis paralysis because they think they have to do like, okay, well, I have to. Jordan Peterson and his daughter say that I shouldn't be eating any vegetables and I shouldn't eat any gluten. I shouldn't eat anything. And like, I guess I have to go keto. And then I guess I got to spend 3 hours in the gym and then I have to run for 4 miles. And if I don't do that, and I should be listening Solzhenitsyn, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
we are the new wave of podcasting. We are not trying to tell you to improve your life. That's your freaking problem. Okay. But
We
if you
encourage
want to,
it.
you encourage it, but I'm telling you what to do. And so I think we need a new approach and we need to, like, people are so inundated with all this nonsense. It's like, just go for a walk, okay? Like,
Don't think about
don't
it.
worry. Yeah, don't even friggin' think about it. Just go for a walk. You know, if you want to go for a walk to Dunkin' Donuts, more power to you. But you know what I'm saying? So I just think that we need to be an answer to all of this intensity that is exhausting. It's exhausting listening to all this stuff. Like,
Yeah,
I just can't live that way.
and it makes you feel like you should be at a certain level sooner,
Yeah.
you know, everybody starts somewhere, you know what I mean? So if you're just picking up 5 pound dumbbells or whatever and doing some curls, like great, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Work your way up.
Yeah.
And
I don't think that, like, some of those people, like, I don't think that Joe Rogan's like everybody needs to work out like me. I think he's just
no,
genuinely sharing what he does.
yeah,
But you know, there are so many people that get off to talking about their routine. And it's like, you want to hear my routine? I get up, I have my coffee. If it's a good day, I read my Bible. If I fall prey to my creature comforts, I go on Reddit. Okay. Maybe I go for a walk and then if not, I go in the afternoon. Like, that's it. Okay. That's doable. Like, if you're an incel listening right now and you are worried about, like, how evil these women are and that they need to be trad wives to you and bake you dinner, like, go listen to a podcast, put on something, and go put on Nick Fuente's podcast and go for a walk. You know what I mean? Like, that's just all I'm trying to say here.
things will come to you that you want if you don't think about them so much. If you just kind of
Uh-oh, now
work.
we're getting into the
What? No, 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 no.
we're getting
This
into
isn't
the
some
okay.
esoteric
This isn't
secret stuff.
witchcraft.
No,
Okay.
no, 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 no.
Colin's
That's
always working in the witchcraft.
well, I always have to sprinkle in a little
A
bit of
little.
basic witchy stuff.
You're just always manifesting.
I have my crystals here, by the way. I have two quartz crystals. I think this is a rose quartz. And then I have got another rose quartz one here, and I'm gonna run them through some sage because I think they need some reactivation. So I'm gonna run them through some sage a little bit later on. Uh,
But you are right though that, like, a lot of people hyper fixate on the things that they want and they don't have. Um, and it really, I think, is to the detriment of their life. Like, sometimes you just need to live in spite of what you really want but don't have. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
oh
I
yeah,
see a lot of I know a lot of women who were like uber obsessed with, like, getting married and the fact that they weren't married by a certain age, like
what a
hyper
waste of
fixated on,
life
like,
that is. I'm kidding.
but like, I need to be married by the time I'm 25. I'm not married. I need to have a kid by the time
Right.
I'm 32 and I'm not. I don't have a kid. And I'm like, and it like consumes them. And I think you're right. I think you're absolutely like, just get out, live your life. If things don't go, here's a little life hack. life is never going to go the way you thought it was going to go. It is absolutely never going to go. Things are going to change. My mom calls it life is like a billiard. The universe is like a billiard table. And the 8 ball hits the 11 ball and hits this ball and hits that, these everything intersects, it's like string cheese theory. And like everything's hitting each other and changing. Even if it says that we make our plans, but God directs our steps, right? And like you are walking in a straight line, but then, a branch comes and you have to go left, or, something, that something
There's
in
a
life.
snake on the side of the
Yes,
road, and you want to
something.
avoid
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, exactly. You are absolutely right. I guess we should dive into the whole Russia saga, and pretend like we know anything. Like I was there actually.
Here, Karen was on the scene
I was on the
reporting.
scene,
No, I
reporting
mean it.
live for
In all
re-education camp.
seriousness, I'm. We're not trying to. We're certainly not trying to present ourselves as any sort of experts on this subject, but I believe that it's important to discuss because, like I said,
Yes.
I just have this deep innate feeling that this event right
Hmm.
here is something that's going to have some crazy implications for the rest of the year because this is really the first time where the war in Ukraine has been brought home to the citizens of Russia, like right in
Yes.
Moscow, right in a mall, at a concert venue. I mean, this was insane footage. I don't know how many people have died so far. The death toll, I don't know if it's 100, it could be more than that. I know there was a lot of people fighting for their lives in the hospital. Now, of course, immediately after it happened, Western media came out and said that ISIS claims responsibility for the attacks. And
I want to just make a note of that. I will say that most of Western media said that ISIS claimed responsibility. I will give credit to the New York Times. The New York Times headline read, "The US says ISIS has claimed responsibility." I thought that was a
wow,
very, very interesting choice of words that
yeah,
you can probably look it up. They did not say CNN. A lot of the other reports came out because I was like looking up at this at the time when it happened. And they all said ISIS claims responsibility. As I said, the New York Times said the US says ISIS claimed responsibility. So that's just wanted to say that.
do you know what's wild about this whole thing, too? Is that a few weeks ago, the US State Department put out a memo warning US citizens
Hmm.
in Moscow to avoid any large gatherings
In
in
concert
concert
halls.
halls.
Yeah.
Like they were very, very specific with this,
Yeah.
which they usually aren't so specific with these warnings. So obviously, I think that they knew something. Also, there is a clip, I don't know if you've seen this, of Victoria Nuland in her exit from, she was part of the State Department, right? Is
Yeah.
that her?
Hmm.
In her exit speech, she basically said how all of these funds for Ukraine, they're going to be used to increase the asymmetrical warfare with Russia, which she said is the most effective. And she said that Putin is in store for some nasty surprises in the coming year. Like she said that. So you have
Yeah.
that memo. You have Victoria Nuland saying that. And also, they intercepted these four terrorists. They found them speeding towards the Ukrainian border. In my opinion, probably to meet with their NATO handlers. I'm sure that that's who put them up to this because it makes no sense to me that what ISIS, who, when was the last time you heard from ISIS? Like after 10 years, they're just gonna pop their heads up and be like, "Hey, remember us? We still exist. We just wanted to remind everybody by shooting up a concert venue in Moscow." The whole thing doesn't make any sense. Russia doing a false flag doesn't make any sense to me. You know, countries do false flags all the time against their own citizens, but it doesn't make sense Russia would do a false flag because, I mean, Putin just had a very good election. They're winning the war in Ukraine. You know, things are going quite splendidly in Russia, and then what? They're gonna go and stage a false flag? No, that doesn't make any sense. So,
Yes, yeah. And the other consideration when I first saw it, my immediate thought was either, like you said, Ukraine or NATO, aka the US. But I also thought, which can be in tandem with NATO, et cetera, um, or at all, I should really say, is any opposition within Russia as well, because there are certainly opposition in Russia who are opposed to this war. Now, is it the majority? Absolutely not. But you might have some people that are opposed. Like you said, it was right after this election, but the opposition would do it right before the election instead of after. But
right.
like you said, no matter what, it was likely somebody Hey, even if it was ISIS, they're diametrically opposed to Putin, right? Like somebody that has takes issue with him. But it should be interesting to, like you said, I don't think that obviously Putin was involved because Putin doesn't want to make the war a problem in the mainland of Russia, like in the heart of Russia. Um, he obviously doesn't want that. He doesn't want the people to get distressed with this war. So I agree with you that there's definitely no way. But the ISIS is a very, very suspicious claim. And as I said, even the New York Times, I believe the way they reported it was in fact suspicious, the way they reported the headline. But I don't work there, so I can't say that that's the truth.
And
I'm
and
not
I
going to
was
stake my
watching
reputation on it.
I was watching some of the interrogation videos on X. They caught these guys and they were interrogating them.
Wait,
And
so they released interrogation videos of them?
oh yeah, yeah, you can find these videos on X of them. They've got one of the guys by the hair and they're questioning him. And one of them was saying how they got instructions to do this from this anonymous person on Telegram, the encrypted messaging app. And they
Yeah,
were paid 500,000 ruble, which I don't think is even that many US dollars, to go and shoot up this shopping center, this concert venue. So my bet again. I don't know anything. I'm no expert on
yeah,
geopolitics and this whole situation, but my best assessment of this is that NATO likely financed these guys to go and do this to bring the war home to Russia. And
yeah,
I don't think Russia believed it was ISIS because I don't know if you saw last night, basically the entire country of Ukraine was under an air raid warning. Like the whole map was lit up in red. They were
yeah,
they were getting bombarded with missiles. I saw a video of the citizens huddled underground in the metro station there. Pretty wild stuff. And it also makes you think, like, how lucky are we to
yeah,
have been born in the United States and to
I-
basically be living in the
yeah,
lap of luxury? I mean, what do we have to deal with in here? Okay, we've got some inflation that we're dealing with. Sleepy Joe's doing his thing, but we're not sheltered in the subways together because there's missile bombardments. Now, to be determined. Who knows what the
yes,
rest of the
yeah.
year
That
holds?
was my only. Well, I mean, you sort of sound a little like Bill Maher. Like I don't know if you're
Oh yeah, quit your bitching. Just go jerk off and pull up Netflix. What do you have
yeah,
to complain about?
but you're so right. Like you're absolutely right. Like when and like we've probably discussed on the show that I've been to Ukraine and know people in Ukraine and who fortunately are more on the western regions of Ukraine. But still, yes, like it's a very, very real topic for me. It's a real thought. And I believe that's why like so working in the conservative media and so much of conservative media has been very, very, I will say, like almost pro Putin in a sense. I know that a lot of people
You could
they
say
always
that.
make the disclaimer that they're like, I'm not a Putin apologist. But I don't see, I believe the problem is that I too am not a Putin apologist because I do reject a lot of the narrative that the mainstream media, that a lot of the media has had about Putin, that he's like, dying of cancer and he's lost his mind.
Right.
Um, but I do think that Putin, see, I was really thinking about how I feel about this. But you and I have discussed, and like we joke around about Putin, and there are certain things that he comes out and says, and he seems to he positions himself as somebody that appreciates traditional values. He appreciates morality. He's anti woke, and they've even there's these crazy propaganda videos they've put out trying to get like Westerners to move to Russia because they're anti woke. I don't know if you've seen any of these. We should.
I've heard of that. I haven't
Okay,
actually seen
maybe
any of
next
them.
week. Yes, they're hilarious, but maybe next episode we'll pull one up. But the problem with Putin is, to me, it's not that I necessarily disagree with what he's proclaiming, but I don't think it's an actual, it's a ruthless, forced version of morality instead of a real version of reality. When you actually look at the population of Russia, they have very high alcoholism rates. They used to have one of the highest HIV rates in the world, but they stopped reporting the data. They also had some of the highest abortion rates in the world. So I think Putin puts out this idea that we live in this like wonderful traditional, you know, beautiful society. But I think a lot of what he's trying to say is really so that his country repopulates, because he's worried about the demographics. And Putin himself does not live up to those standards that he claims are the Russian Christian values. He himself does not live up to that. So I don't believe it's like Joe Biden saying he's Catholic. So I think people need to understand that, like, no, Putin is not crazy. Crazy is a hard word to say. Putin is not Putin is not like losing his mind, I will say. I think he's very calculated. I think he's sharp. I think he's a little deranged, and I think that he is a force of evil. Like, I don't think that he is a inherently good person. Like, I do not think that, but I don't think that I feel like there's this narrative that it's like, well, they were going to put all these bombs on his border, and that's why he was invading Ukraine, and it's because they pushed him into this. Now, I will say there is a lot that the US and the West and NATO did. They really, I think what they did is they played their cards too fast with Putin, because they're having like a demographic collapse. And that is Putin's main motivation, to like secure these borders and to bring back some of these people into the Russian population and kind of reestablish a Russian imperialism, not reestablish the USSR, but reestablish like imperial Russia. But a lot of it has to do with the birth rates. A lot of it has to do with the population. So to me, I think that let Putin, like, to me, they should have allowed Putin to kind of like play his cards and see where it went. But like you said, I think they really forced to get control of Ukraine, and to like, I don't think Putin wants to invade France. Like, I don't think he has any desire to
There
do
are
that.
people who think that, though,
Yes,
Karen.
there
There
are.
are
There are.
people who
Yeah.
truly believe the intelligence agency's propaganda of, we have to continue funneling money into Ukraine because if we don't, Putin's going to come and he's going to take over Western Europe. Do you know how huge Russia is? Correct me if I'm wrong about this. I don't know if you know this little factoid, but I believe that you can fit not one, not two, but three mainland United States inside of Russia. That's how vast this territory is. And for someone to suggest that they're they're trying to expand into like Western Europe, and he wants to come and he's gonna steamroll over Poland, and France is next, and they're trying to paint they try and paint everyone as a Hitler character. They try and do this with so many people, and they've been trying to do this with Putin. Now, going
Boogeyman.
back to
Yeah.
what
They're
you were
trying to,
so
Trump's a boogeyman. Putin's a boogeyman. Yeah.
right, right, right.
And
Trump's
it
Hitler, Putin's
empowers
Hitler.
them.
Right.
Yeah.
What you were saying reminded me of an old saying. There's three sides to every story: yours, mine, and the
And the
truth.
truth. Yeah.
And I don't think that Vladimir Putin is some sort of paragon of virtue. I think he's a legit judoka. I do think that he really does know judo. I mean, you could
Yes.
tell
Yeah.
from if you've seen footage of him, he knows what he's doing. But that's neither here nor there. I don't believe he's some sort of paragon of virtue, but one sentiment that I have seen from a lot of conservative pundits is that this sentiment of, boy, I wish any one of our politicians loved America the way that Putin loves Russia. I do think that he loves his homeland and he loves his
I agree with
country,
that.
and I don't
Yes.
think that they're
We do.
trying.
We do have somebody. It's Trump.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm
that
kidding. I
Putin
don't feel like
is
he's the
is
same. It's not equivalent.
I don't think he's trying to poison and dumb down and depopulate his country people the
No,
way
it's the
that it
opposite.
appears like we're trying to do. Our leaders and the elites here are trying to do to American citizens. So I just wanted to throw that out there. You have to kind of
Yeah.
look at things from
Yeah.
all these different angles.
I think that it's actually short-sighted on Putin's part. I think that he could really repopulate and make Russia a really wonderful place. But I think that ultimately more Russians are going to want to flee Russia because of his actions. I don't think that I understand that he's tried to make it sanction proof and he's tried to do a lot of things, but I think and don't get me wrong, I believe from the reporting that a lot of Russians are completely okay with what's taking place. They're not really worried about it until it comes to their door. Um, and I think that a lot of the people we saw footage of like people fleeing to not be enlisted in the military. But I think a lot of that was exaggerated. Was it true? Yes. Was it exaggerated? Absolutely. But um, I just believe that Putin is kind of going about preserving his country in the wrong way. And I think ultimately it's not going to yield the results that he wanted it to. I don't think that it's going to play out exactly how he wanted it to go. But we shall see. I mean, I think that I really believe Putin's destiny is America's destiny. So if America collapses, then yeah, I think Russia will, in a sense, thrive because people won't, I think it would. I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine America? I sent you that trailer. I think the trailer came out when I was on vacation for that Civil War
Civil
movie.
War.
Like, can you imagine? Like,
I'm
I
gonna
hope
fight for the
that
Florida Alliance. I can't wait.
yeah, I am definitely not voting for Pennsylvania. I'll be like, I guess I'm gonna go hide in a coal mine because I could care less, But
Yeah, you and my
we
brother
should
will be in the
we
coal
should
mine.
do yes, we will be. We will be hiding in the coal mine. Um, we should do a whole episode on like the Civil War, the new Civil War, we'll call it Neo Civil War,
Yeah.
something like that. Because we have to do a very important segment that we have come to. I can't believe this like, episode flew by.
Well,
Really.
we had a lot of important issues of the day to
Yeah.
discuss. And
Yeah, a
one
lot.
one one last quick point I
Yeah,
just wanted to
yeah,
make about the
sorry.
whole
I
Russia
know.
thing.
It's such a
Karen, you talk so
yeah.
much, it's exhausting. No, I'm joking. I will say that I do feel like there is a large percentage of the Russian population that is pro Putin simply because if you know even a limited amount of Russian history, my God, these people have never really had like a period of normalcy or calmness like ever. And I think that this is the first time in the country's history where it's like people can have somewhat of a normal existence and there's food on the table and they
Yeah.
can go out. So I think it's sort of like, hey, comparatively, we'll take this. This is better
Yeah.
than we've ever had it.
Well,
So
it's the pebble in the shoe. You know, the Roman is worried about the pebble in his shoe. You're worried about your family, the roof over your head, going to the grocery store, which Tucker Carlson explained that it's a delight to go to the grocery store in Moscow, apparently. Um,
It
and I'm not
probably
saying
is.
I'm like I said, I don't think I'm necessarily saying that Putin, I believe everything is just so much, everybody wants everything to be white and black and, you know, paint in the lines. And I don't
Yeah,
think that anything is quite that simple.
everything's messy.
Yeah, and you made a good point. There was a great National Geographic photo essay that was done years ago, back in like the not or right after, not right after the collapse, but a couple years after the collapse. Maybe it was like 1997. I remember like looking at one of these old Nat Geo magazines back when it was a real magazine and Disney didn't own it. But it's horrible now. Everyone is about like climate change. It's like ridiculous. But
It is the number
so,
one pressing issue of
it
our
is.
time,
I
Karen,
know.
in
I
case you
know.
haven't heard.
I know. I
Get rid of your
please.
gas stove immediately, or else you are killing the planet.
But there was this great photo essay and it was showing like the brands that were moving into Russia and the nightclubs and the bars and like you said, like this new invigoration that the people of Moscow and Russia had because they were now open and it was post-Soviet. So yeah, I just like I said, I don't think that I think that people have swung the pendulum way too far on the conservative side. And maybe even, I don't really think the left as much, but like they've swung it way too far that I feel like Putin almost seems like you and I joke around about Putin. And I think that that's total, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm not going to be offended. Like if, like, you know, I think Putin says hilarious things. I think they're hilarious. Like you were talking about Putin, like there's like images of him like wrestling bears or something crazy. Like, yeah,
I,
he's hilarious. Like there's something like so charming about him in this
in the
sadistic
Yeah,
way.
like a Bond villain sort of a way,
Yes,
but
yeah.
not
I
like a
actually,
sloppy Klaus Schwab Bond villain. More of a refined, cultured
yes,
Bond villain,
yes. Well,
like from Casino Royale.
exactly. Well, much like Prince William, I've been very invested in Putin since I was a young woman. Just so when I was 14, I read one of the one of the first biographies about Putin. It was like an interview with him. And I remember reading it, and they asked him about being in the KGB because he served in the KGB most prominently in Berlin. And he said his response was, "I still have my KGB card in my nightstand, in my night, like the drawer next." I'll never forget that he said that. But so yeah, Putin, like you said, I've been really fascinated by Putin for 20 years. You know, he's been such a huge figure in the
Huge part
world.
of your life.
He's been a huge part of my life. He has. My mom actually, oh my God, this is so crazy. My mom told me to write to Putin when I was like 15. She's like, you should write him a letter. Can you imagine if I
You should
wrote
do that
Putin?
now, actually. You should send him this episode, actually. I don't know if he's on X. I don't think
Yes,
they have
we should.
X.
We should be like, he would be mad at me now though, because I said some
Oh,
mean
you
things
would
about him.
that'd be
Yeah,
it.
I'd be out. I'm gonna be, if I don't make it to the next episode, we know what happened. But
Karen
I
is not
can't,
suicidal, ladies and gentlemen.
I am not, yes, I was not suicidal.
She wants to put that out there for the
Just want to
record.
put that out there. And I'm not at liberty to tell this story right now. But at one point in time, in a professional setting, I was in correspondence with one of the Russian embassies. We were in an email correspondence with one of the representatives in a professional, like on behalf of my employer. I think that's something we're gonna have to save for the Patreon, but it's a fun story. Um, and yeah, so one day I'll tell that story. It
We have to
was,
make a list of like
yeah,
Patreon only
Patreon only.
episodes. Like if you really want to get the peek
I
behind the
really,
curtain.
yeah, I can't tell that story like without it being probably behind a paywall. Not because I want to make money off it, but it probably shouldn't be like readily available everywhere.
I should
But
save my Elon Musk dream for that too. I told you about that dream I had
yes,
about Elon Musk. I'm gonna save
yes.
that for Patreon.
Oh shoot, I didn't even tell you my Zelensky dream I had the other night. Well,
We
another
should save
time.
that.
Next episode. Yeah, we'll save that too. So, because we have nobody listening. So obviously we need a Patreon.
I will have you know that we have had dozens and dozens of
Okay.
views, and it's only
Yes.
growing since we are now posting on X. So please give us a follow there. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Rumble. Although I think we need to update our
We do need to
Rumble
do a little bit
feed.
of work. I know. Well, we need somebody to bankroll us so that we have time for all of this difficult work. I do want to say that Collin and I met. We were just talking about this. We met working at a small radio station. And I said to Collin, I said, "Do you remember the first thing conversation we had?" And he said it was about, what did you say that we talked about?
I I didn't remember what the conversation was actually. I
Yeah.
just remember you had like a thermos of soup. That's really my
Yes.
main like takeaway from the
You're
whole
like, this
thing.
woman prioritizes her meals. Um, well, and I said to Collin, no, the first conversation we had, we both hosted radio shows there. And I said to him, I like to pretend that nobody is listening. And Collin said, you said,
I like to pretend that the world is listening because you never know who is listening.
that's
Who
true.
knows
Yeah.
what the people who viewed our last episode on X, we don't know who they were. It could be
Yeah.
Joe Schmo, could be God knows who.
Netanyahu, like who knows?
Right, BB. BB's listening.
He's
He's
like,
like these kids are
these
pretty good.
These Irish people have a good point about Ireland. McGregor should be the general. I'm going to make him in charge of Israel too. I hope that stands behind my Birthright Ireland program that I think should be started by Conor McGregor. I think that we need a Birthright Ireland so that young Irish, the diaspora of the Irish population can visit Ireland just like the diaspora of the Jewish people do. I think that that is like such a great idea.
There
So
should be a Polish
hopefully,
one too, because I would
okay.
like to go to Polish and you never know when you're gonna need like another residency abroad somewhere, especially in today's
Yeah.
unpredictable times. So I like that idea.
All right. Well, before we go, we are going to check in with Donald Trump's
How could I
very
have
important
forgotten?
horoscope. No, do not forget. So we get this from the Hindustan Times, which I imagine is very well versed on astrology. I'm assuming. I have no idea.
They're the
Today,
best.
Gemini. I imagine that Trump is watching this on Twitter. So Donald, if you're listening, Donald John Trump, listen up. Today, Gemini, your stars align to offer a blend of intellectual stimulation and emotional depth. Maybe with Steve Bannon. It's a day of ripe for discovery and understanding, especially in personal growth and professional ambitions.
Ooh.
He's got some ambitions. Relationships demand your attention. Maintaining a balanced approach will strengthen bonds. Your career sees positive movement, requiring focus and innovation. Actually, tomorrow when the show will come out, Trump is supposed to post that like 400 plus $1 million to Letitia James. So we will see what happens. But until then, I guess everyone have a great week, right?
Yeah, thank you one and all for tuning in to our humble little podcast here. I hope you've taken away something from this episode or have learned something or at least gotten a chuckle at the very least. So please, by all means, tell your friends, tell your family, follow us on X, subscribe to us on YouTube. Link is in the bio, and we'll catch you right here next week for another fun-filled, jam-packed, intellectually stimulating edition of the Re-Education Camp podcast.